Hello everyone, welcome back. I recently went thrifting with my friend Gwen and I asked on Instagram if you would like to see a vintage / repro thrift haul. It's a lot of words. If you don't know what repro is, it's short for reproduction vintage. So it's like those companies, Unique Vintage or Pinup Girl Clothing, companies that produce modern clothing, like newly made clothing in the style and patterns of vintage clothing. I'm in the process of writing an entire blog post about which one I prefer and an overall breakdown of the differences and how they compare to one another. It'll be very in-depth. If that's something you're interested in, I will link it down below once it is finished. Or if that's something you want me to talk about in a video, even if it's just about my personal opinion, I will happily do that. I am sort of new to reproduction vintage. I've always been a true vintage kind of person. I even wore vintage to my first communion. However, now that it's become kind of more trendy, a lot of companies are trying to create their own versions of the vintage style, and a lot of people in the vintage blogging community will wear that for obvious reasons. Since I've always liked the vintage style, I would do the whole modern to vintage kind of restyle, but it is nice to know that I won't have to repurpose modern clothing. They'll just make modern clothing look vintage. I've decided to step my toe into the reproduction world. I'm not giving up on vintage, of course, it's where my true loyalty lies. However, it has been nice to experiment with newly made clothing in the same style I already wear, because I'm not afraid of destroying it. So what I've collected over the past few weeks is a combination of some reproductive, so I got a uterus in here. Some reproduction vintage that I found thrifting, because a lot of repro is very expensive, which was part of my philosophy of not buying it in the first place, because I said I'd rather pay that much money to have a real vintage garment. But I still see the benefit of it, and I think you should support these companies if they're ethical. I'm trying not to buy new clothes this year unless they're 100% a sustainable, ethical company. So I don't know much about repro brands and their philosophies and their views on ethics and sustainability enough to say whether or not they are sustainable. That is something I will look into. But I've been very fortunate to find some really great pieces from companies that I enjoy aesthetically in the thrift store. I thank Marie Kondo for getting people to clear out their closets, because us thrifters are having quite the field day this year. Most of these pieces that I bought are staples and basics and things that I know I will wear and have been wearing quite a lot, and I like them. The first thing I'm showing you wasn't even thrifted, so after that whole entire spiel. However, I purchased it last year during a Black Friday sale, and it was the dress that I wore on Christmas. It is this. There's a stain on there. I don't know what that is. It's this beautiful kind of emerald green sweetheart halter dress that has the cross in the front. I love this material. It's 59% cotton, 35% polyamide, and 6% spandex. So it is extremely stretchy, which is very good for us curvy gals. I'm sorry about this, looks really questionable. I'll figure out what that was. I love this color, obviously, because I'm a redhead. I'm a redhead again. Hey! So I've always loved myself in green, and I thought it would be a perfect Christmas dress that I can also wear at any point for something dressy. This was from Unique Vintage for their Black Friday sale. I believe it was $25. So it was very affordable, and you can get fun stains that you don't know what they are. So this is definitely from the thrift store. As I said, I went thrifting with my friend Gwen a few weeks ago, and we went to Mission Thrift, which is a thrift store that is closing here and only open on Saturdays, and everything is 50% off. But we also went to one of our other favorite thrift stores in the Mission called Community Thrift. One of the first things that caught my eye was this bathing suit. It's like the Barbie bathing suit. It's also from Unique Vintage, and I paid $7.50 for it. It's a large, so it'll fit my boobies. And I put it on over clothes. What was I wearing? Then it looked really nice. So hopefully it looks nice, not over clothes. Something else from Community Thrift that was such a score, also a large. This is too big for me. I might sell it. No, We'll see. It's this gray deer creatures dress. It was brand new with the tags. It said that it was $150 and I got it for $9. Brand spanking new. It has a side zip. Not the hugest fan of that, but you know, I'll take what I can get. This dress is so stinking cute. Though I can't really wear a bra with it, that's the only problem. And it's also the wrong size. I really should have kept the tags. This is something that Gwen actually found, and I was super jealous and mad. I wasn't actually mad. I love you, Gwen. But she tried it on and I was like, never mind. And I was like, great, now I can buy it. And you can borrow it if you want. It's this pleated wool plaid skirt. It is true vintage, made in Great Britain. I have this big obsession lately with woolen plaid skirts. I don't know, part of my aesthetic has always been 1960s schoolgirl in London, and I'm bringing it back, folks. I blame the wanting all the wool skirts on Rachel Maxey, my favorite YouTuber at the moment. Watching a lot of Mad Men and watching a lot of Twin Peaks. As you will see, this is not the only one in this haul. I, again, love the gray. It's neutral enough to kind of go with more things. As you can see, more muted colors that kind of go with a lot of things, and earth tones is where I'm at right now. I'm kind of over the pastel phase that died a long time ago. Anyway, this is incredibly, incredibly warm. Dry clean only. Yeah, right. Obviously, I know that wool is not the most ethical or vegan option for clothing. However, just like leather, I will only buy clothing that has materials made from animals if it's vintage. In my head, I'm like, the animal would already be dead. I mean, that's not the best way to think, and I'm not saying that's what people should do. I respect people that don't buy any animal product. I think that's amazing and awesome. But for my personal self, that's kind of how I forgive that. Also, it's been very cold. The last wearable item that I found at Community Thrift. Okay, they're a little dirty because I've been wearing them and it's been like raining, so they're amazing heels by Bait Footwear. I know I was just saying I was staying away from like pastel, like girly colors, but I mean, I love Bait Footwear. I've had a pair of their shoes before. They were mint and they were patent, so the color was coming off. The actual color of the leather is this. It's not a coating over it. So I think they will stay nicer for longer. But these are very comfortable. Like I said, I wore them in the rain because I hate myself, but also the outfit was on point that day. That's probably one of my favorite outfits of the year so far. I paid something ridiculously stupid, like $5 for these. Something just so cheap. And of course they're my exact size. Oh, so obviously Community Thrift was a huge success. Like I said before that, we went to Mission Thrift. I could have gone crazy, but I was good. I only spent $8 and I got 3 things, which is unheard of. So the first thing I got was this bandana I'm wearing right now. It has little flowers on it and it's navy. It looks like one from Madewell, but it's an actual true vintage bandana. You see my collection behind me? I loved this one because I knew it would go with absolutely everything that I own. This next piece. I was very, very excited. As those who shop vintage often may know, there's typically a dirndl section. I usually didn't look at the dirndl section because I didn't want to seem ignorant, like I didn't know that they were dirndls, and it's stupid. It makes no sense. I don't want them to think I'm some dummy that doesn't know what a dirndl is and thinks it's just more dresses. So I've always been curious, but I like avoided it because I'm like, that's not what you're here for. Even though I'm German, so it wouldn't really be cultural appropriation. I don't know. However, my current favorite YouTuber I mentioned earlier, Rachel Maxey, has this beautiful dark green dirndl, and I watched a video where she talked about it. Yeah, she just talked about how, yeah, it's a dirndl, but I'm gonna wear it as a dress, and I was like, that's the confidence that I want. So she made me want to go get one. Mission Thrift has set prices depending on what type of item it is. All their dirndls are $10. So I got this baby for $5. It's just plain enough where it's not so apparent that it's a dirndl. It has the teeniest little flower pattern that's just so precious, and the zipper. $5. $5. Also, I wore it, and that is the most likes that I've ever gotten on an Instagram post so far. So I guess I looked pretty okay. The last thing that I got at Mission Thrift was this. I thought this was really cute. It reminded me of last summer. These types of bags were really popular, but this one is vintage, handmade, and big and square. It doesn't look like it hold much because it looks so thin, but it actually opens pretty wide. I think I paid $1 for this. Yep. This isn't really reproduction or vintage, but it's vintage-esque, so I thought I'd talk about it. Last night I went to a sample sale with my friend Nikki and new friend Alexia, friend of Nikki's, for the brand Amour Vert. They are a sustainable fashion company that is based in San Francisco. So one of the things that caught my eye was this little peplum top. Thought it was really cute. It fits really well, and I have it with a pencil skirt today, and I feel like badass working lady. I think I thought it was $10, but it turns out it was $30. So I put it back, but then my friend Nikki got it and bought it for me because she's really nice. And so I'm wearing it today. I only dropped 1/2 of a bagel on my boob. It landed like perfectly here. It looked like a bagel bra, but it cleaned up very easily. So this is the type of material that I need in my life. Okay, the last place I'm going to talk about is Goodwill. As I said earlier, I have been interested in woolen skirts, and this is the very first one that I saw before I got that gray one. Yes, another pleated plaid schoolgirl one. This is also true vintage. This one's a little bit like slightly longer, so it's been very kind to me as well in this cold and rain. And I just love the colors, the green, yellow, and blue. I also saw another one the same day I was there, and I got so excited. This one is a more neutral, and it's more of a pencil skirt style, but it does have pockets. Really cinches in the waist, and I like the very, very muted color palette it has going. I think they're each $6 or something. The final piece is this little blouse. Has these ruffled doodads on them, and it ties around the neck. Has this super cute pattern going on. I don't know if you can tell, it's just very subtle textured dot pattern. This is not vintage, however, it is vintage passing. I am always on the lookout for neutral or white blouses that are vintage looking that I can wear with skirts like that. So that is it for my vintage / repro thrift haul. I hope you enjoyed that and liked some of the things that I bought. I'm finding this weird balance of having enough clothes to make interesting outfits and different outfits because of Instagram and places that I post said outfits, and loving fashion / wanting to be as minimalist as possible. But I am learning that minimalism doesn't necessarily mean you have to have very little of everything. But I can write a whole blog post or make a whole video on that if that's something you're interested in too. Let me know what you think in the comments about true vintage versus reproduction vintage if you're someone in the vintage community, or if you're someone that doesn't care, what is your take on it? I'm curious to know what everyone thinks. I know I have my own opinion, but I don't think that that's the right one. I know there seems to be some disparaging opinions in the vintage community. There's almost like a hierarchy sometimes with people that wear only true vintage, and I used to be one of those people that thought I was better because I wore real vintage and didn't just fake it. It's a bit of a snobby attitude to have. I think everyone should do what makes them happy, and I see the benefits of both, even though I prefer one over the other. You should wear what makes you happy. If you love the vintage style but don't have the desire to care for vintage pieces in the way that they need to be cared for, don't want to pay the amount of money, or want something that's more for different bodies or made with better materials, then that's fine in my opinion. It doesn't make you less interested in vintage fashion. Sorry, that was like kind of a rant, but thank you so much again for watching and subscribing if you subscribe. If you haven't, spare a subscribe. Spare a like, will you? Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you have a marvelous, lovely day.